back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess, and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a 2005 theatrical release. It's directed by Andrew Adamson, cinematography by Donald McAlpine, editing by Sim Evan Jones and Jim May, music by Harry Gregson Williams, and it's written by Anne Peacock, Andrew Adamson, Christopher Markus, and Stephen McFeely. The film is based off a book by C.S. Lewis. Shall we compare? Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy are evacuated from London in 1940. They move to the English countryside, and while exploring the house, Lucy enters the wardrobe and discovers Narnia. She meets Mr. Tumnus, who invites her for tea, and then reveals that he had been planning on turning her into the White Witch, but decides to lead her back home. Lucy tells her siblings, who don't believe her, but Edmund follows her and ends up meeting the White Witch, who claims to be the Queen of Narnia. The White Witch uses Turkish delights to get Edmund to agree to bring his siblings along with her so he can be prince. Turkish delights? Edmund ends up learning the real identity of the White Witch and denies Narnia exists to the older siblings. The four siblings end up in Narnia and discover that Mr. Tumnus has been arrested. Mr. Beaver and Mrs. Beaver tell them that the White Witch's rule will only end when two sons of Adam and two daughters of Eve take the thrones. They also mention the true ruler of Narnia, Aslan, is returning to the stone table after years of absence. Edmund sneaks away to threaten the White Witch, who heads for the stone table and orders his siblings' executions. The rest of the siblings head for the stone table with Mr. and Mrs. Beaver. The snow seems to be melting, a sign that the witch's magic is fading, confirmed by Father Christmas, who brings them gifts. Santa is a little out of pocket for me, I don't know. The trio and Beavers meet Aslan at the stone table, who's preparing an army. The White Witch arrives planning to kill Edmund until Aslan makes a deal with her. That night, Aslan is killed by the White Witch, but is resurrected given the law of deeper magic from before the dawn of time. Aslan takes the girls to the witch's castle to revive the Narnians who had been turned to stone. They all battle the witch's army, and Aslan kills the witch. The children are crowned kings and queens of Narnia. The now adult siblings hunt a white stag in the forest said to grant wishes, where they accidentally stumble through an opening they had once been through before. They are now children again, no time having passed. Their guardian, who believes them, says they'll return to Narnia when they least expect it. The end. It's pretty similar, given a few details, but the movie seems pretty faithful to this plot specifically. The film stars Georgie Henley as Lucy, Skandar Keynes as Edmund, William Moseley as Peter, Anna Popplewell as Susan, Liam Neeson as Aslan, Tilda Swinton as the White Witch, and James McAvoy as Mr. Tumnus. In the 1990s, Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy wanted to make an adaptation, but couldn't really find a place to do it, especially in 1996. At the time, Douglas Gresham opposed a lot of the ideas, especially the fact that they wanted to set it in modern times and wanted to wait for technology to catch up, but Perry Moore did start negotiations with the C.S. Lewis estate in 2000, but in 2001, Walden Media had acquired the rights. After Harry Potter's success, though, it convinced them that they could make that film entirely in Britain. Guillermo del Toro did turn down the directing opportunity because he was focused on Pan's Labyrinth, so Andrew Adamson started working on a treatment for it, and the obvious differences between the book and the movie are mostly because Andrew remembered it differently. He went from memory mostly, and then also other things because he felt it seemed a bit more natural. They filmed in New Zealand starting in June of 2004. And they shot in mostly chronological order so the actors could mature with the characters naturally. They were denied bringing live reindeer to New Zealand, but they were allowed to bring wolf and wolf hybrids. And then after break, they filmed in the Czech Republic, Slovenia, and Poland. The film had a $180 million budget and made $745 million in the box office. It has a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was considered visually stunning, and that the story was considered faithful. It did win the Academy Award for Best Makeup, and it was also nominated for Best Sound Mixing and Best Visual Effects. This is beautiful. Stunning. Especially just the way they visually tell some of the story. My favorite being the tension between Peter and Edmund. Even in the beginning, looks they exchange versus speaking. They do a lot of tense speaking as well. But looks they exchange also communicate the tension between Peter and Edmund, which I thought was really well done. But also this is just very visually beautiful. The stuff in England being so muted, and then everything in Narnia being obviously very vibrant and colorful, except during the White Witch, I guess. But even Christmas, snowy time in Narnia is stunning, even though it's, the White Witch or whatever. I could talk about the visual effects in the miscellaneous section, but I feel like it's hand in hand. I think the visuals are really well done, except for mouth moving on the dog animals, the wolves and the fox. The mouth moving makes them look so fake. It's like unforgivable. I don't even know how to explain it. I just hate when the animals' mouths move. I don't know. But the beavers didn't bother me. The beavers being like totally digital didn't bother me in the slightest, so I have no idea where my problem is coming from. But the wolves and the fox especially, I didn't like. But the other visuals that I'm sure are part of it are stunning and really well done. The first half of this movie flies. Like, it is boom, 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 boom. You are in Narnia. Things are happening. And then I feel like it gets lost a bit, and I don't know if this is, like, I think it's story and edit related, so I think I'll touch on it more in story, but it does feel very, like, this story is very, like, climax, then when it is actually the climax, it feels kind of like, yeah, okay. Which is really mean, because it's a good movie, but I'll talk more about it in the writing session. Here's a fun fact. I listened to this soundtrack far more than I ever watched the movie as a kid. I think I saw this in theaters and then maybe like once or twice after theaters, although I feel like I did watch the special features because I vividly remember a whole like behind the scenes thing about them doing the ice like river moment. I vividly remember them like getting soaking wet and floating on this like fake ice thing, and like I vividly remember that. So I feel like I must have watched the special features at some point, but I haven't seen this since I was young, but I listened to the soundtrack far more than I ever watched this movie, so I knew the music in the movie better than I knew the movie. I kept being like, oh yeah, I forgot this happens, or oh yeah, that's the sequence of events here, and then I'd be like, but I know this song and could hum you the rest of it. Like, it was amazing. And it was also fun because I didn't remember, like, I knew London 1941 or whatever the name of that song is toward the beginning when they're like, that one. I knew that one was then. But then, like, Father Christmas, I forgot that was that one, and I forgot. I didn't forget Mr. Tumnus's Lullaby or whatever. I digress. Anyway, I wasn't so crazy about the music with words in it. Obviously, when I was listening to the soundtrack growing up, it didn't bother me, but I think I just, like, had forgotten that some of the music with the words is in like the actual movie and not just in the credits, and I wasn't too crazy about it. I feel like it kind of took me out a little bit, which I think is interesting, especially like when they're on the train and the words come out of nowhere, because you haven't had that yet. It wasn't established right away, and I feel like that's something you have to establish right away if it's gonna be like that and not like a choir. As I've already said, great setup of Edmund and Peter's tension. It's so well written and performed and just executed in general. It's palpable. It is like, okay, I buy it. I'm here and listening. Something that took me out was when Lucy wanted to play hide and seek and Peter just started counting and Edmund was like, what? I don't know why it made me laugh so hard, but it did. Because he was just like, oh my god, I have to get up and hide. I can't believe we're actually playing hide and seek. So that made me laugh a lot. Edmund, I remember when I was young, just drove me insane. I know it's a whole joke that like he sells out his family for Turkish delights. I totally am aware that he is a child, okay? And he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he's being taken advantage of and that the White Witch is evil. But it is a funny joke to be like, you see, like, Turkish delights, my dude. Like, I thought she just offered them to him. I didn't realize he asks for Turkish delights, which is funny. Granted, I've never had a Turkish delight, so I don't know if they are good. Aren't they just like a Jell-O marshmallow, basically? But like, I'm convinced there's way better candy. A Turkish delight? I feel like that's just no. What are we doing? The hot cocoa is way cooler. I'd want that. That was great. Like, I remembered that vividly. I remembered the hot cocoa. Like, here's some hot cocoa for you. Why she needed liquid to do it was interesting. But not important. When I was younger, it drove me insane. Not necessarily him, like, selling out his family for Turkish delights. It drove me insane that, like, he couldn't see that she was, like, definitely bad. And then, when he finds out that she's bad, it drove me nuts as a child that he just didn't tell his family. And I know why he didn't tell his family. I get it that he's embarrassed. He's afraid what they'll say. He doesn't want to do, like, another thing wrong. He's scared to get in trouble. Like, I understand all of that now as an adult, but when I was little, man, I was like, Edmund! Tell your freaking family! But in this, I was so mad when he snuck away to go see the White Witch. I was like, this kid is, even though he's like, he doesn't know, and he's a kid, and I understand, and I love him dearly, and his growth is amazing, but oh my gosh, couldn't deal with it sometimes. And then, like I touched on in the editing, I don't know what it is, okay? First half of this movie, pretty much all the way up until they meet Aslan, is like, except for the Father Christmas scene, flies. So maybe that's it. All the way up until the Father Christmas scene, I'm like, yes, I'm following. There's a goal. There's things, like, they're trying to save. Like, first, they're just trying to meet Mr. Tumnus, and then they feel kind of obligated to save Mr. Tumnus, but they're not like, ugh. And then their brother gets taken, so of course they're trying to save their brother. So I get that aspect of it, okay? I totally see that. Fine. I understand the goal, right? And I know that they have to, like, go see Aslan to try and do that, and all this, that, and the other thing. The Father Christmas scene is so random. Like, I feel like that's probably how it is in the book. I have never read the book, but it's just so random. Like, there is literally, like, they don't even mention Father Christmas. They say we haven't had a Christmas in 100 years, but, like, they don't say specifically, like, it's just like they don't celebrate Christmas or, you know, whatever. Like, it's just not a good enough, like, Santa hasn't visited, Father Christmas hasn't visited us in 100 years. Why just we haven't had a Christmas? Because that just it doesn't imply enough for me that, like, they have Father Christmas and Father Christmas visits them and brings them gifts and is a real person in, like, Narnia, just like he is here, okay? So, like, the fact that he exists in Narnia and in England and here, like, they don't establish that well enough for, like, Father Christmas showing up to be like, oh my god, Narnia's coming back to life, that's so exciting. Like, it's so random, and then he gives them weapons, like, which is fine, it's cool, their weapons are cool. But I'm just like, I wish it were, like, at a better moment. I don't know, it's just so random. It's, for me. And then when they meet Aslan, that is, like, so, like, ooh, they're meeting Aslan, like, and he's Liam Neeson as a lion, like, woo! Liam Neeson. Less Aslan, because Aslan's, like, a realistic-looking lion, you know what I mean? Not, like, a Mufasa, Kovu, Simba moment. Just Liam Neeson. Anyway, his voice, though, perfect. Could not have been someone else, I don't think. Anyway, they meet Aslan, and this feels like a huge moment. And then, like, getting Edmund back, kind of anticlimactic. Like, literally, Aslan sends, like, troops to go get Edmund, and they do. Why aren't the siblings saving Edmund? I don't know. Like, Edmund, because then they're all gonna fight the White Witch. I get it. Whatever. But I don't know. It just feels like so, like, oh, the whole thing, like, that was really the driving factor for Peter, Susan, and Lucy to save Edmund more than save Mr. Tumnus, though they want to save Mr. Tumnus, obviously, and then eventually want to save all of Narnia, because they can tell that the White Witch is dirty pool and bad news. But, like, the whole point and big push for them was to save Edmund, and then they get Edmund, and I love, like, that they make the decision to stay and fight, but then it's just kind of... like, Aslan dying, so scarring. Like, I didn't remember it being like that, but oh my god, I'm shocked I wasn't scarred as a child. That's a horrifying scene, him getting killed. Yikes. I don't know. It's something from, like, once they get Edmund until the end that is just like, okay, yeah. Like, it just feels like one giant long resolution instead of, like, the climax of the film, because I feel like the climax of the film should have been, like, saving Edmund. I don't know. I can't put a finger on it. There's just something about it in that area that starts to feel a little disjointed. Maybe it's because it's, like, climax after climax after climax, so then it's, like, the real climax feels kind of like, yeah, okay. What else is new? We've had, like, 30 of these. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel as, like, big and, like, emotionally weighted as I could. Even though, like, Aslan freaking gets murdered, but we've only known Aslan for, like, 2 seconds. So, like, they're so emotional over Aslan being killed, which is, like, yes, we don't want Aslan to die. That is so sad. But we don't know him. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, so let's move on. I don't know if it was my computer, Disney Plus, or whatever else, but the sound right at the beginning, for some reason I thought sounded like trash, which was hilarious because it was nominated for Best Sound Mixing, so I feel like it had to have been something I was using, or like Disney Plus or something, because the sound eventually like was fine. I had no problem with it. So I don't know what that was about. And then obviously I already talked about the mouth-moving visual animals. Not my cup of tea. What I never realized as a kid is in the final battle, the White Witch is wearing Aslan's fur that she had them shave off. I never put that together as a kid. That was never something I was like, oh man, she's wearing the fur she had them shave. The second I saw her, I was like, oh my god. I was like, she's wearing his mane on her. Like, what the heck? Incredible. I think that's an amazing choice. That is so good. And I'm so mad at my younger self for not noticing that. I hadn't seen this in so long. Again, I listened to the soundtrack more than anything, but this was so fun to watch. It has a very serious opening, obviously. It's also kind of quick. I wish there might have been like a little bit more there to establish things and not like some expository dialogue saying something about their dad and stuff. Like, I wish it maybe could have been shown. I don't know. And then I remember when I was younger thinking Peter looked so old. And now I put it in and I was like, they are all babies. I was like, I don't remember him looking this young. I thought he was so old when I watched the first one. And I haven't seen the sequels. So I'm very excited to see the sequels and see how much they all grow. Because I was like, I remember thinking Peter looked so old. I was like, he's about to be a man. And like easily, I could say he's probably like 15 or 16 in this movie. Like he looks 15 or 16 in this movie, which is crazy. An actual baby. And then I forgot Slughorn was the professor, which I don't know his real name, but he was in Around the World in 80 Days. He was like the villain in that one. But he's Slughorn, and obviously he was the professor first. He was Slughorn after that. But I love that he got to do the Chronicles of Narnia and Harry Potter. I think that's fun. Speaking of Harry Potter, when there's a scene where Peter yells at Mr. Beaver he goes, "Get off me!" The way he says it, I'm like, it could have been Daniel Radcliffe. Like, when Daniel Radcliffe goes, "Get off!" on, who is that he says that to? Is it Dobby? I feel like it, or, yeah, it must be Dobby or something. He says "get off," and the way he, like, it was verbatim, it could have been the same. Like, they could have just taken the audio from Daniel Radcliffe and put it over Peter, which freaked me out a little bit. The horse saying "my name is Philip" took me out. Might have been the funniest joke in the movie. I was dying. Aslan scaring the White Witch into sitting, also nothing better. It was like the perfect little moment to be like, okay, she thinks she's all that in a bag of chips, but she's scared of Aslan just like everybody else would be, because he's the best. And then I did cry 100% when Edmund gets stabbed and Peter like becomes unhinged. That was it. I started crying from there. And then when they revive him and Peter and Edmund hug, I was sobbing. Not sobbing. I was crying. It was a good cry. That's everything I have. Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun. My final rating is 7 wardrobes out of 10. Our total movie count is Parental is the same, but our cry count is. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when. I put out videos every Monday and Friday, sometimes Wednesday. Join Patreon. I got tiers starting at just $1, $5, $10, $20, $40. So go check it out. You get every video a week early, starting at the first tier with a coupon code for merch. Buy merch. Merch is great. Merch is grand. We love merch in this land. Until next time, come like, subscribe, but I'm not in charge of real life. You are, so you do, and don't be the White Witch about it. The children are clowned. The now adult siblings, adult children,